Hello, so this is Keely from Beyond Diagnosis, and we're just having a chat with some of our volunteers this year for National Volunteering Week, which obviously looks slightly different this year. But Barry, would you like to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Barry. I've been volunteering with Beyond Diagnosis for coming up to a year now with the same service user. And yeah, I work for Nottingham Council, sort of outside of this. I guess it's my proper job.
And can you tell us why it was that you got into volunteering with Beyond Diagnosis specifically? It's a very particular service and choice to make to spend your volunteering time with.
Yeah, so the reason I got involved was because I'd had sort of personal experience of dealing with somebody who had cancer, and they found it, I think, a lot easier to speak to me, who wasn't a direct family member, than with direct family members. So I saw the importance of somebody with cancer being able to discuss things with someone who I don't think has such an emotional involvement that a direct family member might have. So yeah, when it came up, certainly something that resonated with me.
So what do you get out of volunteering? What sort of benefits do you get out of volunteering for yourself?
I think the main thing for me is that real feeling that you're making a difference to an individual's day, week, or indeed life. I find it fascinating to talk to people. I quite like to hear about people's interests and everything else about people. But yeah, for me, it's more about being able to make a difference to somebody, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. And thinking of the person that you're currently volunteering with, and because I speak to him so often, I know it makes an absolute huge difference in his life. So obviously, the person that you've been matched with has had a massive change to his circumstances, unfortunately, whilst being in lockdown. And I know that that's presented a whole heap of new challenges. But how have you found volunteering sort of before we were unfortunately having to quarantine and everybody had to social distance and stay away from each other? What sort of impact do you think that's had on your ability to volunteer?
I think my ability to volunteer hasn't changed massively necessarily, in terms of what I can offer. But I think, it is really different doing it over the phone.
So if we just have a chat about the differences you found sort of when you were volunteering before COVID-19 came along and we all had to lock ourselves down in our houses and isolate from each other, and how you find it after, and sort of what the pleasures were before and the challenges that you're finding now.
Yeah, I think, in terms of volunteering, it was kind of a lot easier sometimes to meet up with people face to face. You can see, emotions in people's faces. And I think certainly for my service user, it gave a reason for them to be out of the house, to coming up and meeting up. Obviously, since lockdown, that's changed because everything's happened over the phone. But I think as a service, it's become almost increasingly important for some service users because of the element of social isolation, about loneliness. People are either on their own or feel like they're on their own. I think then actually being able to talk to somebody else has become really important in people's weeks. But yeah, for my specific service user, they've encountered a massive change during lockdown, and are going through a real period of grief. So for them to have somebody to talk to, even though it's just a voice and they're not seeing a face anymore, I think is important. But it's definitely a lot more difficult than if we were doing it face to face, I think, because I think that closeness and everything that face to face brings in terms of kind of facial expressions and emotion would add to it. So yeah, definite challenges, but I think really for me, to reiterate, I think it's more important than ever now, that we're connecting with people and talking to people, because being stuck, we're all stuck in our houses every day, but I think if you're on your own or you're dealing with difficult issues, it certainly compounds it.
Yeah, and I know from speaking with your client that you volunteer with, it is an absolute key part of his week to hear your voice. And as much as he really desperately misses going out and meeting you in person, knowing that it's okay, Barry's going to be phoning me soon, it really gives him the reassurance that he needs. And as you say, more so now than ever, it's important that we're seeing other faces and we're hearing other voices where we can. So I'd just really like to thank you for continuing that, because I think for that particular gentleman, it would have been really hard for him to have lost his sort of freedom of being able to move about, the grief he's experiencing anyway, and then also having lost his connection with you, who he trusts and can feel comfortable to explore his feelings with. So I know it's been an absolute massive saviour for him throughout this. So thank you. Lovely. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us as well.
It's all right, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Barry.